My name is Arthur Vinci. I'm a writer, director, and producer with a background in independent film. And this is the second episode of what I hope will be an ongoing series called Worth Another Look, where I talk about films that for one reason or another flew under the radar or aren't talked about that often, or maybe got a critical drubbing when they came out, but are in fact worth another look. Today's episode, we're going to talk about Lord of War, written and directed by Andrew Niccol. Niccol is probably best known still for Gattaca. He often deals with near-future sci-fi work and does so in a very thoughtful, methodical kind of way, trying to delve into the deeper issues that technological change and social change could render. So In Time, which is we'll probably do on another episode, he shows what happens in a society where time is the currency, and if you run out of time, you literally die. So Lord of War is a bit of a departure for Niccol. Instead of tackling something that's more on the sci-fi end, he's tackling something that's happening right now. The main character, played by Nicolas Cage in a relatively understated performance, he's an arms dealer, an independent arms dealer. And him and his brother, Jared Leto, who also delivers a very understated performance. Remember when Jared Leto used to be good? It sounds kind of crazy. Him and Jared, his brother in the movie, Jared Leto, play the sons of Ukrainian immigrants to the United States, and they first start out getting set up as arms dealers in small-time gang wars in Brighton Beach, and then later realize that the real money is in dealing arms in much bigger actual wars. And they find that, it's actually very easy to become and maintain a growing business as an arms dealer. Along the way, Nicolas Cage kind of attracts the attention and ends up playing a lot of cat and mouse games with a alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agent played by Ethan Hawke. Also, again, giving a really good performance. I have to say the performances across the board here are really good. So he gets involved as an arms dealer in part because he wants to woo the woman of his dreams, played by Bridget Moynihan. And eventually does so. And gives her and them this glorious life. Big, beautiful apartment. They raise their kids in the best private schools in New York City, while he's also going out and selling tools to murderous people and playing this dangerous game with other arms dealers and with some of the dictators that he ends up working with. The movie is fascinating. It's visually stunning. The very first shot of the film is a montage from the point of view of a bullet rolling off an assembly line, and we track the bullet as it goes from the assembly line onto the shipping floor, where it gets packed in with a crate full of other rounds of ammunition, then gets unpacked, then gets shipped to the front lines, and then gets shot through the barrel of a gun into a child soldier's head. That gives you some idea of what you're in for. It's masterfully done. It's horrifying, appropriately so. And you see kind of the process that goes into the war machine. It gives you a sense of how Cage's character is involved in that process. In addition to being very stylishly shot and edited, Niccol also has a heart, and he will occasionally stop the film and show you the cost of what Cage's character is doing. He will stop and show you people getting shot with the guns that he is selling. He'll show you what happens to people. It is a very effective movie in that sense. It certainly has its problems. It is told very definitely from within the Western gaze. A good chunk of the film takes place in Monrovia, Liberia, and it concerns the civil war that raged on in Liberia, and that was also part of a larger war in Sierra Leone. You only see that from Cage's perspective. You don't see it from the perspective of the people who had to live through it, which is, I think, a failing of a lot of films that are, supposed to be about issues, but often end up just being about how the American or the white person feels about the issues. There's a sort of lack of a perspective, of another perspective within these films. But I have to say that despite that, it is still a very effective movie. So what makes this film worth watching? Well, first of all, it has really spectacular visuals and a very good cutting style. These are things that you could definitely study for your own work. It also demonstrates how you can take a character who would not initially be sympathetic and make him or her compelling. Most of us would probably not want to know an arms dealer or spend a lot of time with an arms dealer in real life. And yet you are very sucked into Cage's world and you want to see him do okay, or at least, survive to the next deal. Even though at the same time, you realize that he's a horrible person. The other thing that's worth discussing is the sound design. The sound design is really good. The mix of music and sound in the film works quite well and works within the editing style. Another thing that's worth talking about is the use of voiceover. It is heavily voiceovered by Cage's character. He is very aware of his role in things. And unlike, say, the voiceover in Election, where everybody's pretty much lying, where there's a huge discrepancy between their voiceovers and their actions, Cage is presenting himself as exactly who he is.
The Soviets put the gun on a coin. Mozambique put it on their flag. Since the end of the Cold War, the Kalashnikov has become the Russian people's greatest export. After that comes vodka, caviar, and suicidal novelists. The primary market was Africa. 11 major conflicts involving 32 countries in less than a decade, a gun runner's wet dream. At the time, the West couldn't care less. They had a white war on what was left of Yugoslavia. You go into the restaurant business because people are always going to have to eat. That was the day I realized my destiny lay in fulfilling another basic human need.
But, at the same time, the voiceover adds a layer to the film. It is not redundant information. I think the sin of a lot of voiceovers in films is that they are not adding anything, they're just repeating the obvious. So that's it for this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Lord of War. Feel free to comment. Thank you very much.